Welcome to GovFocus. I'm Sarah Seibert, Managing Editor at GovCIO Media and Research. And joining me today are Devon Tyler, Acting CTO and CISO at the Office of Federal Student Aid at the Department of Education, Mahua Mitra, Chief of Enterprise Platform Services at NIH CIT, and Kathleen Featheringham, Vice President of AI at Maximus. Thank you all for joining me today. Throughout the conversation, we'll discuss how federal agencies can effectively attract, develop, and retain AI talent, and the evolving strategies needed to support innovation in AI. And then these workforce efforts are backed by calls from recent federal directives like America's AI Action Plan and America's Talent Strategy, which was jointly authored by the Departments of Commerce, Education, and the Labor Department. So to kick things off, let's dive a bit deeper into what these calls mean for government. Devon, I'd love to start with you. How has the Education Department adjusted its workforce development strategies to align with these calls?
Appreciate it, sir. I'm gonna speak directly towards federal student aid. And so we've looked at it both from an external service provider as well as internally. How can we be more competitive with the services that we provide? From the external, again, removing barriers, looking at ways that we can deploy technology, AI in this case, to have a more robust service that we offer out there to the public. One of the first things that we did was look into our chatbot that we had. We was using uh, it was AI-ish, but it wasn't generative AI. And so there was already pre-canned responses, and we knew that we had a workforce that was dedicated towards that we can then uh, use generative AI, feed into that, and then repurpose that workforce to do other work that's very important for federal student aid. And so, as well as providing a service that instead of having to contact federal student aid, that you can readily go into studentaid.gov and receive an answer to your response. And then the second thing is just really embody what does it mean to be innovative and start to showcase to the business how can they leverage AI. So something that we host down is a monthly sync where we showcase other people that aren't technologists around the business to show how they're leveraging AI to do their work, to provide ideas, hopefully to force others to say, hey, this is the way that I can leverage this to be more innovative and more strategic about the work that I do.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And Mahua, are there any through lines with what Devon said and similar strategies that you're doing at NIH?
Yeah, sure. So going back to the executive orders, those that started coming in last year really validated the direction that NIH was already headed in. And then at NIH, like Devon also said, there were many initiatives already underway. A lot of them were isolated pilots. So we have actively tried to move away from those pilots into actual enterprise scale AI enablement with strong emphasis on like real responsibility and trust. We have also made some progress in formalizing some of these positions, like we have nominated Dr. Brad Bowers, who is the Chief AI Officer at NIH now. And through executive support, a lot of headway is being made. So, a few things are important in this strategy, like clear governance, designating leadership in appropriate positions, closely aligning with HHS and OMB guidance. So staff understand what within the realm of AI is really allowed and encouraged, right? Also, broad-based access to secure tools. We have made many of these enterprise level tools available. For instance, we just rolled out Enterprise Chat GPT. We also have the Strides Cloud environment, GitHub Copilot, Chirp, Gemini, you name it. There are all of these within NIH that are being made available to all of the staff. And of course, finally, there is formal training, whatnot, that are being also rolled out. Some of these are mandatory training, some are optional. So we're really providing AI literacy at all levels.
I'm looking forward to jumping into some of those tools like Enterprise Chat GPT-5 in a little bit, but I'd like to follow up and learn more about how public-private partnerships play a role in strengthening this AI talent pipeline. I think the through line in some of these directives is that stronger partnership, getting industry's input in developing talent. So Mahua, how is NIH approaching employee upskilling?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, employee upskilling, we really believe that, as people focus on hands-on learning,
Mhm.
and practically start to use AI, that works best to upskill our resources. Like I mentioned, we have a lot of formal training. We have the community of practice for AI within NIH that's making a lot of progress. But what we've ultimately seen is when people actually use AI to do their job, that's when upskilling picks up pace. We are, of course, partnering with the industry through our OneGov deals. We have, several partners that are helping us get access to these newer tools. And through them, we're just leveraging all these platforms that I had mentioned before in my previous answer. All of these are available, and just training people at the different levels they are at within the different roles they play. They are just trying to leverage AI, and within the community of practice, there is just lots of synergies. People sharing their use cases, learning through other people's lessons learned. And that's how we are really trying to upskill our resources.
Right, that makes sense. And Kathleen, I saw you nodding your head. So when we think about people, process, and technology and the combination of those three for effective AI use, how should these elements work together to maximize return on investment?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, I think to talking to return on investment, the first part is actually what are the outcomes that you're actually really trying to get to? AI is not the answer for everything. So it can be a good portion of it, it might be right, but it's really understanding those outcomes. And then from there, you start to break it down into the people, the process, and the technology part. The
Mhm.
ones that we're seeing act so much more in line with getting the outcomes that we want is because we've actually not just tried to fix broken systems, right? It's being able to change the processes to where the technology is at now, not trying to fix old technology or make it better to fix old systems. So when you think about it, like when you bring it all together, it's sometimes the processes need to change. Sometimes the skilling needs to change of folks, but it's also of where they're at now and where they're going to, because that's actually, maturity type of level of effort where they're not necessarily going to stay in the one same place, and therefore upskilling one time doesn't really work. So it's about kind of following along. So when you think about all of those areas, we try to bring them together, because if you don't have them all, the tech alone is not going to just work. And old movie of like Field of Dreams, and I'm probably aging myself, but it's not Field of Dreams. It's not just you bring it and they will come. It's how are you enabling them to be successful? So you may even need to look into things like incentive structures. What are their goals? What is that? Is it set up that their goals match to being able to innovate and take advantage of it? And a lot of those things, when they're out of alignment, they actually hinder the progress of the whole parts of it. We have a couple other and deployments and things that we did where while we were doing, let's say, proof of concepts, we also had to start looking at really understanding of where it was going to go into operations, because there's things that fundamentally change, and it's not just the group that was doing the proof of concept. It's a whole bunch of other groups have to be involved, and the earlier they're involved, the more likely things are going to adapt, because they start bringing up things of like, well, wait, we're going to have this, or it's going to have to do this, or we're going to have to train people on these things or have new policies. So it's really that holistic, very heavy change management view, and thinking as that, AI, unlike a lot of other previous tech things, it's not just in the IT department. It's really truly why it's a general purpose technology, because it really is impacting all areas.
Right, that makes sense. And Field of Dreams is a great movie. It's timeless. So, Devon, I'll turn it back over to you. Data, as we know, is at the core of AI. How are you managing and securing data to ensure it's used responsibly in AI systems?
Yeah, that's a great question. Something that uh, is always dear to us. I mean, we have roughly over 100 million records. I think some will say like the third largest in the federal government. And so we understand too, as individuals coming in and they're filling out a FAFSA or they're paying their student loans, that is very sensitive information that they're giving to us, and that we want them to trust and know that we're protecting that information. we also want them to know they can get robust answers back to some of the questions that they have. And in some cases, that they're doing an authenticated session towards us, and they may ask about their student loan status, that they can get a response back that's both timely and accurate and secure. And so there's a couple things that we're doing. We want to make sure that there's governance around it. How are we using it? What are we using it for? How are we protecting it? And other pieces of the technology around it as well too, making sure that we're using things like a RAG model and ensure that the data that we're producing, the answer that we're producing is from an authoritative source. And that way, if you're asking it specific questions about student aid, that you're not getting something that's produced from the internet, you're getting something directly from us. That's very important to us. And then as well as like what's the layer around it is a proxy to make sure that those responses coming in are the appropriate response and that let's say borrower A is not receiving something that's really intended for borrower B, or borrower A is trying to have a question that has nothing to do with student aid, and then we're not leveraging that technology efficiently. Those things are very near and dear to us. Again, efficient use of the technology is secure and how we secure it. Uh, we're also getting very deep when it comes from going to security and how do we enable capabilities. So like focusing on the agent use of this. And so we're starting to see real efficiency around not just the generative piece, but actually leveraging agents to actually complete function for humans to make them more efficient at things that they don't necessarily want to do, copy and paste. Well, we can do that for you. We can send it for you. Uh, and then all while at it, it'll be secure. So we're spending a lot of time on the governance piece of it, the technology, and just trying to ensure the public knows is that as we automate and we innovate, that it's going to be secure.
Right. That's exciting. And Mahu,
Yeah.
I'll turn it back over to you. So Devon just mentioned a couple of use cases, and you mentioned earlier in the conversation your rollout of Enterprise ChatGPT 5. So how is this tool driving efficiency, and what training and governance frameworks are in place to guide responsible use?
Yeah, so that is one of the first use cases that was rolled out enterprise-wide within HHS.
Mhm.
So what that really did is ChatGPT, the enterprise version, is just so helpful in day-to-day activities. People started to use it, and that helped remove some of the hesitation. People are using it for simple tasks like summarizing their documents, drafting or refining content, analyzing data, debugging code, you name it, streamlining administrative tasks, simple things like writing meeting summaries and agendas. It's just people are becoming more and more comfortable with it. And we do have a lot of executive leadership support. This is now at an enterprise grade, right? So people understand that the workspace is secure. Data that we are working with are not going out to the public. It's staying secure within the HHS uh, chat GPT environment. So that is definitely expanding the use of this in a more responsible way. People are more confident using it. Of course, there are other use cases as well, such as Claude, Gemini for government. Those are rated for more sensitive data. So depending on the use cases people have, they are definitely using these enterprise platforms quite a bit right now. And of course, the governance and NIH and HHS AI guidance, the AI risk management framework, all of this are supported through these use cases, and we're making sure we are aligning with all of this. So that's how I think responsibly we are progressing with the usage of these platforms.
Yeah, and are there similarities between, you mentioned how the workforce is getting more comfortable with the tech using Enterprise ChatGPT 5. I know NIH's ITSM platform is also AI enabled. So is it similar when you're talking about that platform as to how you're helping users navigate and apply AI effectively?
A great question, and that is very close to my heart because I manage the ITSM platform for CIT.
Mhm.
And of course, the ITSM platform, we have made it AI capable now. It's a very specific use case. What that helps us do is simple things like routing tickets correctly the first time, summarizing incidents, change history, surfacing relevant knowledge articles timely. It just cuts down the back and forth and helps IT staff spend less time triaging and handing it over to the correct folks for timely resolution of issues. Um, but again, technology alone isn't enough. We spend a lot of time providing the guidance, transparency, and training our people on where automation really makes sense and where human judgment is still essential. That part is really important. AI supports the decisions that we should be making, but it doesn't still replace accountability. So this is new on the platform, and of course, we are doing a lot of hand holding. We're training our service owners, our IT teams, giving them real life examples and on how to effectively use this, updating our knowledge articles on best practices, whatnot. So a lot is going on in this front, and like I said, this is very close to my heart because it's I really want to make the platform fully AI capable. Getting there, small steps.
Yes, definitely. And I'd love to stay in touch as you continue to build that out. I wish you luck. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so Kathleen, building on that, how can organizations foster safe experimentation and continuous learning while, adopting AI?
I think it's a continuous conversation with the people
Mhm.
who are using it and understanding and breaking down workflows, because there's times where we'll use AI where it may not be user facing, and that might be okay. So it's about having technical controls and measures then, and to make sure that the models are still performing as they're supposed to in those cases.
Mhm.
Then on the people side is a lot of that is around the explanation of how they should use data, put in where. So like even for us, we've taught them how to look at, okay, it looks like a website you're going to. How do you know whether this one's protecting the enterprise data, or is it just like any other commercial website? So we've done a lot of education in those types of areas of saying, okay, this is what it looks like. But then in the broader sense of it, and we actually share this with the people who we work with and our partners and parts, is we break down workflows. And so where is it appropriate to have what parts? We have the discussion of where do we responsibly need to have a human? Because honestly, sometimes the humans add actually more risk. So, but where do we need to have it? Where it's appropriate, and what outcomes are being determined about humans? Because anything that might have a material impact, you want to make sure that you have the right checks and balances in it. But it's not throw it all out, right? Because and that's where we said as we're going heavier into agentic and multi-agents is which parts, which parts of the workflows, how do you put in governance from a people side, process side, but also technical side? And there are abilities and ways to do that. And so how do you kind of rethink it? And it's not so much about building the workflows, but understanding what it might look like and how would you test it.
Right, that makes sense. And I know that you all alluded to, the growing workforce adoption, but I think at the same time we're seeing some fears and misconceptions still around AI. So Devon, I'd like to start with you. How are you addressing some of these challenges to build trust and adoption among employees?
Hey, sir, I appreciate it. This has been a fun exercise. I would like to say it'd be easy if I can say, hey, it's just Terminator and people are just afraid of it like Skynet, but that's just not the reality. Reality is that people are terrified of technology potentially replacing the job that they do. And
Mhm.
so one of the things that I try to do is have very direct conversations with those teams and individuals and then showcase through pilots like what Kathleen talked about and really show how we can tailor the tool to be as enable with your workflow or automate pieces of your workflow that you may not necessarily want to concentrate on. Like for example, we have tools and technology that we're using through our workflow to generate documentation. Wouldn't it be great to bring in a general component? And that way it helps you to generate, you can still validate and review it, but then instead of having to send it out, that we use the agentic piece of it for it to send out an email on your behalf. And that's the piece I think people get really worried about. But when we show that you're going to control this, it's not just going to happen until you authorize it, until you hit a button and it's going to send. I think people are less concerned about the generative piece of it, going to ChatGPT and generating summaries or doing research. And I think they're more worried about the agentic piece, the piece where we start to automate some of the workflows and we take the human out of the loop. And what I do is simply show them that we're going to make sure that you're still driving the decisions that are still made by you. And if there's pieces of the workflow that you generally just, your staff does not like, you don't like to do, it's very redundant, then we're going to automate that for you to really help you with your workload. So it's those kind of conversations and really that kind of relationship. And then when we do that, we take them and they become champions. And so what we've done on a monthly basis is have those individuals come and then showcase. This is how we rolled out an AI capability. Here's how we make sure it aligns to where your comfortability level was. And then that way that breeds adoption between us and others to really showcase that this is not going to replace you. This is going to supplement what you're doing. And this is going to help you ultimately be more efficient at the job that you have.
Right. Yeah. And Kathleen, is there anything that you would like to add in terms of, addressing those fears, especially as the tech grows?
We've actually been trying to, even for our internal operations, and we're a pretty large organization, is be pretty transparent and not try to hide the faults. And that is something that I think people are appreciating, is to say, yes, but here is how we're handling these faults, and being open about it so that people can learn, because too much of hiding that, people see it, they understand it, they see through it. But as I said, we break it down into where is appropriate, how can it be helpful, how can we do this right? And sometimes we also have to go really data driven. And so this is where I'll say we're taking kind of like a behavioral science type of approach from an adoption standpoint. Sometimes what people tell you and what happens is different. And it's not that they're lying or misleading, sometimes it's perception or misunderstanding. So combining both of what are they trying to do in the system and what did they actually ask it versus what they think they asked it, right? And sometimes these vary, and that way we're using that to really rethink our content strategies, because clearly there's some expectations and perceptions that things should be able to do it, even though no one told them they could. That's their perception. So how do we try to better align it, and also how do we follow it along to know where things are moving, and is it actually getting them what they need?
Mahua, workforce fears and misconceptions around AI are common. How are you addressing these challenges to build trust and adoption among employees?
Yeah, that's a great question. Those concerns, of course, we see them all the time among our workforce, and there is definitely some level of uncertainty. So the way we are addressing those is through focusing on clarity, access, experience, senior leadership support. As we make AI tools broadly available, not just to small groups, we are very explicit about what AI can and cannot do, and making sure that it is available enterprise wide. Staff are encouraged to experiment, but within clear boundaries, right?
Right.
Like the communities of practice, pilot projects we discussed before, those really help. People, when they hear from each other about their success stories, lessons learned, then those fears tend to fade away. And AI then becomes a practical tool for people to use in their day to day life, and not something that's abstract or threatening to them.
Right.
So leadership transparency, I think, matters a lot. Um, we want to make sure that we adopt this in the correct way, with a lot of emphasis on governance, leadership support. Um, One of our major focuses on a town hall that's coming up for CIT is to discuss openly these opportunities, considerations, some real use cases with top level NIH leadership that are responsible for AI.
Well, it's exciting to see it grow, and I appreciate all of your work in this area. I hope that we can all get together again and see where, ITSM goes, where financial aid goes. So thank you all for your help in joining me today.
Thank you.